Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lords of the Night. With me, as always, is the Lord of Pain, Ranting Monkey.
Hello.
And the Lord of Pennies, Satsu 2 cents.
What up, though?
And I'm your host, Scribe, the Lord of Punishment. Hello, everyone. Hello, chat. Hope you're all having a good Friday. You had a good week, and you have a good weekend ahead of you. Tonight is, it's like a visit to a Chinese restaurant, because there's a lot of sweet and sour all over the place. It's going to be a little sweet night. I get to hang out with my friends. A little sour because, as the title indicates, it is the penultimate episode for the attendance of our friend Ranting Monkey for the Lords of the Night. And I've prepared something special. I didn't do a lot of heavy lifting on this, but I prepared something special as an intro. A little bit of maybe this is your life, kind of.
Uh-oh.
Maybe. Not exactly, because I didn't exactly have a lot of time to do this, and now I can't find it because where did I put it? Don't tell me I put it in the wrong folder. That would make me very upset. Wow, this could have gone better. Where did it go? Yeah, I know. It's like, I had it right there, and then it's like gone. Like, no, I put together. Okay, well, I will buy time by reading this super chat. Hello, thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people in Lawton. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
Where did it?
Damn it, Kyle.
I just made this thing, and now it's gone. What the hell happened? Okay, well, anyway, stalling for more time. Satsu, how are you?
I'm good. Oh my god, it's so funny watching some of these people in the chat. Like, no, Monk's gotta be gone, and they're literally gonna be on Monkey in the Morning watching him like the next day. like he's not really going anywhere for a lot of you guys. You gotta be watching him on Monkey in the Morning, like literally in the next couple hours. My day has been good though. I haven't had a bad day at all. I made another one of the Hello Fresh meals today, which was pretty good. I cleaned my living room, and I planned on cleaning the whole house today, but for the past 2 days, my water has been off.
That sucks.
Off and on. And my wife has not been very happy about it because she likes to take showers as soon as she gets home, and she's like, I had a not so great day at work, and now I got Burger King on me, and I'm not happy about it.
Real quick, everyone. The word penultimate means next to last. Tomorrow night is Monkey's last night.
Yes.
This is Monkey's last night for my hosting him. Mm-hmm. And it is the next to last episode where he will appear as a regular host. That is what it means. Okay, so you don't already... Vocabulary. Just calm down.
Confuzzlement.
Yeah, I can understand penultimate or the way that I open it up. Maybe, yeah. So he is here tonight. He's here tomorrow night. So hold your tears. Hold your tears for tomorrow. I mean, you can cry now if you want. I'm not. You do what you will, but just don't worry. There's at least one more episode left of Monkey.
Scribe, you were talking to the same people who, when he made the announcement, specifically and literally said that I'm going to be doing the show for another week.
I know.
And they came back and asked, Monkey, why are you still here?
I know. I just want to make sure that for whatever reason, I'm not dropping the ball. Thank you, Shoehorn Aplenty, for the crying emoji. Yes, we are all a little sad. Satsu, I'm sorry. Was that all of your how you are?
Yeah, it was a pretty good day overall, except for the water being off, which sucked.
Yes, I can understand. Monkey, how are you? Even though I have an inkling.
We're just gonna skip how I am. I'm alive and happy. How you doing, Scribbles?
Well, I'm happier now that I found the file I was looking for, which I put into the wrong folder somehow. But aside from that, work was relatively, thankfully, relaxed today because a particular person was on vacation for the day, which alleviated my stuff that I had to do. So I was able to actually clock out early-ish and kind of just enjoy the afternoon before I had to do some other stuff. Got some other work done, which I'll talk about at YouTube time, or at least maybe bring up. But before we do that, Monkey Dick, Jim Jones, movies, video games, hit that like button if you have not already, and most of you haven't because I know it's a sad day. But all the same, at least hit the like button for the sentimentality, maybe. And please share our stuff, share it far, wide, sideways, and otherwise. If there is a content creator out there that you appreciate, let people know that you do, whether it's us or anyone else, because YouTube does a very poor job of that these days. So you guys are our best algorithm. Now then, as was intended to happen a few minutes ago earlier, I did take a few minutes today. Like I say, not a lot of heavy lifting on this, but I thought I'd take us down those pieces of memory lane that I have at my fingertips, using StreamYard's new feature of being able to start sharing a video like that instead of holding it into another tab. So let's see if this works out. I wonder if it'll do the sound automatically. Chat, you'll have to let us know. So here we go.
Now that I'm talking to some esteemed colleagues around the same age as I am, where are you guys at on meatloaf?
I love meatloaf.
Yeah.
I love meatloaf.
I've never had it.
Oh my god!
I knew that was gonna happen.
You have to wait. Are you kidding?
No, but you couldn't get me. I've seen it. My mom has made
Oh
it.
my god!
You couldn't get me to put that in my face.
Put meatloaf in your face.
We have a running argument in our house. Is cereal soup?
No,
Yes, it is.
it's stew.
It's soup.
No, it's not. Soup
It's
is like
breakfast.
no. Soup implies that it's a homogeneous mixture.
What?
What?
No, look up the definition of soup. It's a soup.
It's not soup.
It's breakfast soup. Scribbles
What?
is cereal soup.
No, cereal's not soup.
No, it's a sauce.
One eternity later.
You take a dry soup mix before you put it in the water. Guess what? It's crunchy as fuck. Thank you. I win.
That doesn't make it soup.
Why?
Scribe's dying. SJ is offended with the notion of soup, and I'm just having a good time.
I love
When was the
listening
last
to
time
Lady
you had
Monkey
crunchy
laugh at
soup?
us in the background?
If you have dry soup, I mean, it's going to be crunchy. You are killing Lady Monkey's Scribe.
I'm going to run for president of the world and destroy all cereal and all soup so none of this has to be discussed ever fucking again.
Quill, you don't have to cook your soup. I'm just listening to everybody laugh.
Why?
Should existential crisis be avoided at all costs? No, but soupy cereal should be.
Scribe, this is how I feel when you and Monkey talk about movies. It's just payback, so hush.
Oh, God.
It's not stew.
Scribbles, what do you want to talk about?
You could argue, hold on, that it's stew.
How can it be stew but not soup?
Well, hold on, let me find the definition of stew.
Oh, God, that definition of soup.
I
forgot Lady Monkey was there for that part.
Lady Monkey, for you guys, so you guys who don't know, when we miss something, Lady Monkey is on the job and she yells at us. And right now she's standing over me because I did say the $20 bounty on my nipples is in effect. And Sweeper hit that. So she's standing over me like hovering. She is. Oh,
no.
Okay. Clear my throat. Move my arms.
Oh,
ready
God.
to flinch.
Oh, God.
You can do both because it's $20. So you can. I'm ready.
Stop being a baby.
Just do it. Just do it. Ow! Ow, motherfucker! Oh my God!
A few moments later.
And now, a special message from our sponsor.
Lady Monkey, I love you.
Oh, I love you too, dear. But I love twisting your nipples even more.
Oh God, why?
Friends, do you seek both the alpha and the omega in vicariously painful entertainment? Then look no further. Presenting Monkey Rips, Monkey Nips. For only a $20 donation, you can hear and feel the excruciating pain of another human being and revel in your own decayed sense of decency. Fun for the whole family.
Ow, damn it, woman. My nipples aren't supposed to be black and yellow.
Don't be racist, dear. Now hold still. My pinching fingers are oiled up and ready to go.
Ow, no.
Monkey Rips, Monkey Nips. Now playing.
Seriously, she fucking hurt me.
Hey.
The words were acted. The pain was not. Jesus Christ. Oh.
A few moments later.
Okay. Do it. Ah, no, you missed. You missed.
You want to scream?
Because you still pinch skin.
Will you be okay?
God damn it. No, get the other one. Do it right. Ow, motherfucker.
Yeah. No half measures, Lady Monkey. You're not Canadian.
Oh, God.
A few moments later.
Scribe says to use your knuckles. Are you going to do like 1, 1, 1, 1 or?
No, I'm 2 at once.
2. Oh, God. Okay. All right, go. Oh, God. All right. They paid for this back to back, so do it quick. Do it quick. Get the. Come on.
Don't rush me.
Hear the joy in her voice.
I think
I know.
you would enjoy it.
I don't think I would enjoy this ever.
You would enjoy it.
She's trying to talk me into torture. Oh, motherfucker! Oh my God!
I think Lady Monkey just violated the Geneva Convention.
A whimper of
fuck.
defeat.
Oh, she tugged a little on that last one.
And there you go.
Oh, good times,
Yep,
man. Those really do hurt. She enjoys the hell out of them, and she really does get so excited she misses a lot. You didn't include any of the misses really in there.
Oh well, it was a long
there's a
period
lot
of the
of
show.
Sure.
Real quick, Toxic Nightshade, thanks so much for the Dog Cat Fox. Happy Smiley Dog Cat Fox. Make sure I didn't miss any others along the way. A lot of comments as things were going. Don't want to lose that one. Thank you, Shoehorn Plenty again for the bravo Dog Cat Fox. Bravo. But yes, I wanted to. I strung together the little bits that I did have archived. There are others out there. I didn't have time to find the 10 blackest characters of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
We had that on there somewhere. I couldn't find it in my archive. And I know there was other things too, but yeah. So just wanted to play those just as my favorite still remains Cereal is Soup. I mean, every time I hear that and I hear Lady Monkey start laughing, I just can't help but start giggling to myself. It's just so hilarious.
I forgot she was there for that.
Oh yeah.
Live.
Yeah. She made that like such a joy every time I hear it. It makes me so happy. But yeah, so there was that. We can do some more memory lane stuff later, I guess. But I thought we'd get right after that into the news.
All right.
All right. Well then, let's see. Can I still do this? I still can do this. Okay. Yeah. StreamYard just added a new feature where you can direct stream a video without having to have it in a separate tab, which makes life a lot easier for me when I start doing things like that for TEDx and all, which is interesting. I forgot to check to see if people could see the. I'm still curious as to what the audience sees as far as the controls of the video on their side. I'll do that another time. Anyway, let's talk about the story that was all over Twitter today. Some are calling it a bombshell. Some are calling it a nothing burger. I'm not quite sure which because I only saw screen caps of certain things, so I saved reading the whole thing until now. But the title is The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election. Which, it's a very loaded title, depending on how you decide to interpret it. But
a little bit.
A weird thing happened right after the November 3rd election. Nothing. What? Thank you, James Colley. This is a good compilation, not as great as some of the compilations on the Christian Science Monitor, and Dogcat Fox is still a... Yeah. Well, that's just your opinion, I'm afraid. But thank you, James Colley. The nation was braced for chaos. Liberal groups had vowed to take to the streets, planning hundreds of protests across the country. Right-wing militias were girding for battle. In a poll before Election Day, 75% of Americans voiced concern about violence. Instead, an eerie quiet descended. As President Trump refused to concede, the response was not mass action, but crickets. When media organizations called the race for Joe Biden on November 7th, jubilation broke out instead, as people thronged cities across the U.S. to celebrate the democratic process that resulted in Trump's ouster. A second odd thing happened amid Trump's attempts to reverse the result. Corporate America turned on him. Hundreds of major business leaders, many of whom had backed Trump's candidacy and supported his policies, called on him to concede. To the president, something felt amiss. Quote, "It was all very, very strange," Trump said on December 2nd. Quote, "Within days after the election, we witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint the winner, even while many key states were still being counted," unquote. In a way, Trump was right. In a way. Okay. Again, I haven't read this yet, so I don't know what's in this thing. There was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protests and coordinated the resistance from CEOs.
Oh, no.
Okay. Both surprises were the result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and business titans. The fact was formalized in a terse, little-noticed joint statement of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the AFL-CIO published on Election Day. Both sides would come to see it as a sort of implicit bargain inspired by the summer's massive, sometimes destructive, racial justice protests, sometimes destructive, in which the forces of labor came together with the forces of capital to bring the peace and oppose Trump's assault on democracy.
Okay.
So you're opposing an assault on democracy by unifying business and a political party together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The handshake between business and labor was just one component of a vast cross-partisan campaign to protect the election, an extraordinary shadow effort dedicated not to winning the vote, but to ensuring it would be free and fair, credible and uncorrupted. Yeah, go ahead.
Making sure that no authorities would look into whether or not it's free and fair and uncorrupted.
Yeah, with corporate America and labor uniting against one side. Okay, for more than a year, a loosely organized coalition of operatives scrambled to shore up America's institutions as they came under simultaneous attack from a remorseless pandemic and an autocratically inclined president. Though much of this activity took place on the left, how much is much? It was separate from the Biden campaign and crossed ideological lines with crucial contributions by nonpartisan and conservative actors, such as the scenario the shadow campaigners were desperate to stop was not a Trump victory. It was an election so calamitous that no result could be discerned at all, a failure of the central act of democratic self-governance that has been a hallmark of America since its founding. Well, in that regard, they utterly failed.
Yeah.
In at least half the country's opinion. So their work touched every aspect of the election. You know, if you're trying to campaign for this whole thing being a positive, you're really making it sound insidious. They got states to change voting systems and laws and help secure hundreds of millions in public and private funding. They fended off voter suppression lawsuits, recruited armies of poll workers, and got millions of people to vote by mail for the first time. They successfully pressured social media companies to take a harder line against disinformation and use data-driven strategies to fight viral smears. They executed national public awareness campaigns that helped Americans understand how the vote count would unfold over days or weeks. Holy cats!
Wow. Holy moly.
Crusader, This money is to help pay for Scribe's therapy sessions once Monkey is gone. Been a fan for a long time. Monkey, if I figure out how, I'll send you a bottle of the finest Colorado whiskey. Godspeed, boys. Thanks for a great show. Dude.
Thanks for watching, man. And that is very, very generous. Holy crap.
That's exceedingly. Thank you so much, man. That's crazy. Thank you. Wow. Thanks. I lost for words. I know, even though I have a whole article in front of me. Thank you. James Colley, thank you so much. Does Satsu and Monkey have Streamlabs on? I don't know. Do you guys have Streamlabs on?
Never heard unless I'm told.
Okay. Well, you should make that habit.
I will bring it up now.
Yeah, I'll make it a habit for the next 2 shows.
There you go. There you go. Okay. My brain got derailed. They executed national public awareness campaigns that helped Americans understand how the vote count would unfold over days or weeks, preventing Trump's conspiracy theories and false claims of victory from getting more traction. I thought they weren't trying to achieve one particular outcome.
It sounds very much like manipulation. That's all.
Yeah. You guys got any Streamlabs?
I'm still opening mine. It's almost there.
After
I do.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, no. That's from this morning. No, I don't.
Okay. Satsu?
Hold on. Oh, goddamn. 2-step verification. Okay. Give me a second.
After Election Day, I'm guessing the shadow
government thing.
Shadow campaign monitored every pressure point to ensure that Trump could not overturn the result. Quote, the untold story of the election is the thousands of people of both parties who accomplished the triumph of American democracy at its very foundation, says Norm Eisen, a prominent lawyer and former Obama administration official who recruited Republicans and Democrats to the board of the Voter Protection Program. Wait, you're going to preserve democracy by arranging an unelected body of people to unite against one side of the equation. Am I reading this right?
Yeah, you're reading it right.
For Trump and his allies were running their own campaign to spoil the election. So is that on equal footing with what you're describing above? The president spent months insisting that mail ballots were a Democratic plot. Well, you just said it was. And
they literally said that.
You literally just said the mail-in ballots were a Democratic plot. And the election would be rigged, quote unquote. His henchmen at the state level sought to block their use, while his lawyers brought dozens of spurious suits to make it more difficult to vote, an intensification of the GOP's legacy of suppressive tactics. What were you just describing above? Before the election, Trump plotted to block a legitimate vote count, and he spent the months following November 3rd trying to steal the election he'd lost with lawsuits and conspiracy theories, pressure on state and local officials, and finally summoning his army of supporters to the January 6th rally that ended in deadly violence at the Capitol. Okay, well, that's an interesting characterization, especially since you just talked about how pressure was put onto corporate CEOs and social media companies to go to the direction they wanted. So what's good for the goose? The democracy campaigners watched with alarm. The democracy campaigners? You mean the shadow campaign? Democracy? What's the Washington Post's motto?
Lie as much as necessary.
No, I know. But what's their actual motto?
Hey, Scribe.
Yes.
Truth dies in darkness.
Democracy dies in darkness.
Democracy dies in darkness.
You told to use ASMR to interrupt you.
I can't understand a word you're saying. Could you speak up, please?
I can't.
Okay, whispers. Quote, every week we felt like we were in a struggle to try and pull off this election without the country going through a real dangerous moment of unraveling, says former GOP Representative Zach Wamp, a Trump supporter who helped coordinate a bipartisan election protection council.
Okay, here's my question. If everything was on the up and up and Trump was going through all legal channels to so-called undo democracy and overturn the election, and you knew for a fact that nothing was wrong, why the fuck would you have to go through all of this? A shadow coordinated effort of massive recruitment, money being paid, and people being organized and moved in different places to make sure a thing that literally, if you did absolutely nothing, wouldn't have changed the course of the election. Like, why would you feel the need to do that? Because he went through all legal channels and failed miserably.
Is this article like, this is so bizarre. It's not instilling confidence in me about the intentions of this secret alliance of business, labor, and politicians, X or otherwise. And Satsu's right. If the election process is secure, if our democracy is solid, why were they so scared?
Yeah, why they need to do all this?
What would be the purpose? And essentially, if that is the case, and democracy triumphed and it stayed intact because it was made that way, and it's efficient, then basically what this article is saying is we wasted a fuck ton of money and resources to make sure that Trump didn't win, and we didn't even need to. That's what this article's saying.
Real quick, thank you, Resolute Germ. If we did it, Confessions of an Election Fraud. That is hearkening back to the book, the O.J. Simpson book, If I Did It.
Yeah.
Anyway, quote, we can look back and say this thing went pretty well, but it was not at all clear in September and October that that was going to be the case.
Because our democracy is so fragile.
Sometimes I sit here hot and bothered, and my nipples get really, really sore.
Oh.
Now, that is an example of
And I'm
monkey
not
being...
going to stop talking.
Yeah, monkey's being a prostitute.
Anyway, as I was saying.
Yeah, monkey's a whore.
Yeah. Thank you, James Colley, who said I don't have the exact one up here, but it was to interrupt you with ASMR and try to make the ladies wet.
Yes.
And I can't do that, James, on purpose. If it happens, it happens. But I'm a married man, so I went silly instead. I hope that's okay, James.
Johnny Hellcat says birthday. Johnny Hellcat, it's your birthday? Thank you, Asan. If the fraud doesn't fit, you must impeach. Johnny Hellcat, was that it's your birthday? Is that what I'm to take from that? I mean, I'm taking it literally, but Johnny Hellcat happy. Okay, well, Johnny Hellcat, it's his birthday. Oh, real quick, thank you again, the Crusader. This election nonsense coupled with HR 127 and the fight over COVID relief makes me think the politicians want the public to snap so they can have reason to take our freedoms. I don't want to start going into,
I mean,
anyway, let's do the birthday first.
Johnny Hellcat, it's your birthday. Around here we do this. This one's for you. And a 1 and a 2. Oh, yeah, okay. He did say mine. I'm sorry. I just saw mine on the screen.
I was about to start.
Johnny, this one's for you. And a 1 and a 2. Happy birthday to
you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Hope you had a good one.
Happy birthday, dear Johnny.
Johnny boy.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Johnny. I hope you had a good one.
Okay.
That's I was really hoping you were going to meow.
Man, you know what? I don't think so. Thank you, Travis. Hold on. For the donation. When I read this, I had to tweet to everyone. I showed my wife a Biden voter, and she was appalled. Quote, it was fixed, she said. Wait, what? When I read this, I had to tweet to everyone. I showed it to my I showed it to my wife. I showed my wife a Biden voter, and she was appalled. Quote, it was fixed, she said. A Biden voter? I'm confused.
Oh, his wife was a Biden voter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his wife, a Biden voter. So she voted for Biden. She was shown this, and then, yeah, she was appalled.
Okay.
Thank you, Drew W.
Can I respond to that?
Real quick. Thank you, Drew W. They're saying it was a bipartisan effort. Yes, they are, and they're listing a couple of people. But anyway, sorry, Monk.
Well, they're not wrong. I mean, you did have the Lincoln Project fully involved in this kind of thing. So
that's true.
No, I wanted to respond to what was just said by Crusader. You have to realize that there's a whole bunch of the country that's absolutely happy with everything they're doing.
Yeah. Like this is a heroic story to a lot of like the people that their audience that they're targeting. Like they're shedding tears of like, oh my God, I can't believe such an amazing thing happened behind the scenes.
Yeah. So while you are offended by this, and anybody in their right mind would be, there's a whole lot of people who look at HR 127 and like, this is exactly what we need.
Okay. I got to keep going with this one. This is the inside story of the conspiracy to save the 2020 election based on access to the group's inner workings, never before seen documents and interviews with dozens of those involved from across the political spectrum. It is the story of an unprecedented, creative, and determined campaign whose success also reveals how close the nation came to disaster. Quote, every attempt to interfere with the proper... Hold on. Quote, every attempt to interfere with the proper outcome of the election was defeated, unquote, says Ian Basson, co-founder of Protect Democracy, a nonpartisan rule of law advocacy group. Quote, but it's massively important for the country to understand that it didn't happen accidentally. The system didn't work magically. Democracy is not self-executing, unquote.
This motherfucker. Okay, look. There's I do not like the way he wrote that.
That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information.
Thank you, Frosted Glass. Sorry, I just missed the donation there. He says, God damn it, load up. I won't be here for tomorrow's stream, so I wanted to say we'll all miss you on Lords of the Night, Monk. No one sends me to the corner like you do. All right, enough of this gay shit. Interrupt Scribe for old time's sake.
Pinkal, the Driving Ape Man, thanks so much. What is this, Bizarro World? This is insane. Well, just wait. They were not rigging the election. They were fortifying it. And they believe the public needs to understand the system's fragility in order to ensure that democracy in America endures.
Okay.
Well, that was my problem a moment ago with the proper outcome of the election rather than the true outcome of the election.
Yeah, the proper we needed to make sure that the person we wanted to or thought was supposed to win won, because that would literally be the only proper course of action. If anything other than that happened, it would have been improper, and then we would have been doing the opposite to make it. That is insane.
And that's backed up by things like the fact that, it wasn't just after the fact making sure that lawsuits didn't happen or anything. Like, we had to make sure that people could vote by mail for the first time. Like, wait a minute. You get into some weird territory there.
Sorry, getting a text from Sister Scribe. 1 second here.
He's interrupting himself, y'all.
The Architect, sometime in the fall of 2019. Okay, what is going on?
Cool.
Sorry, I got to call my sister, guys. Sorry, I'll be back as soon as I can.
No, that's fine. I'm sure we can manage to talk with just what we've heard so far. I didn't read this. It was sent to me, but I fell down the stairs and spent most of my day in bed. This is actually worse than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like I talked about, after the election, we all got together to make sure that everything was counted proper. That's not even what they're saying. They're literally saying to make sure that the result we wanted comes out. Hello?
Yeah. I'm still trying to
I was just making sure it wasn't just me here, because I can talk by myself, but
no, I'm just I'm trying to because that last paragraph he just read about when they went down the list of all of the things that they said they claimed they did to save democracy, those were almost every single thing they listed that Trump was doing to destroy it.
Yeah.
All right. So just for rumor control, what happened was I got 2 in quick succession texts from my sister, and I just saw, and that never really happens. So I just kind of called her right away to find like what's going on, because and nothing was wrong. She was letting me know that she was putting plans together for us to visit our parents in a couple of weeks, and that's all it was. I was like, so
Gotcha.
I was just overreacting.
Can I get a donation real quick?
How much do you want?
How much you got? Evolved Potato, thank you so much. He says, so when they said they changed the laws, are they talking about the illegal ones that were forced through without going through the legislature? Considering Pennsylvania turned out to be such a big thing, I would suggest yes.
All right. I know that we're falling out of format, but this is just I'm fascinated by this. The Architect. I usually think of Karl Rove when I hear that title. Sometime in the fall of 2019, Mike Podhorzer became convinced the election was headed for disaster and determined to protect it.
Wait, when was this at?
The fall of 2019.
Fall of 20. Holy shit.
This was not his usual purview. For nearly a quarter century, Podhorzer, senior advisor to the president of the AFL-CIO, the nation's largest union federation, has marshaled the latest tactics and data to help its favored candidates win elections. Unassuming and professional, he isn't the sort of hair-gelled political strategist who shows up on cable news. Among Democratic insiders, he's known as the wizard behind some of the biggest advances in political technology in recent decades. A group of liberal strategists he brought together in the early 2000s led to the creation of the Analyst Institute, a secretive firm that applies scientific methods to political campaigns. Author of this story, you are not helping your case into settling anyone's fears about what the hell went on in the last election. This is not calming. This does not make me feel good as I'm reading it, as your descriptions continue.
In fall of 2019, this is before, oh my God, Trump is going to try to steal the election. You know what was going on at that time? Oh my God, the economy is doing so well. How the fuck do we stop him?
This is before the pandemic.
It's before COVID. This is when the economy is firing on all cylinders.
Oh my God. Okay, I need the link to this.
Okay, I'm taking the link. I'm putting it in the chat. Lots of people are asking for it here.
Oh my God.
Okay. He was also involved in the founding of Catalyst. Nice spelling. The flagship progressive data company. Thank you, Bacall Driving 8-Man. Insert Professor Farnsworth quote. Yeah, no kidding. The endless chatter in Washington about political strategy, Podhorzer believes, has little to do with how change really gets made. Quote, my basic take on politics is that it's all pretty obvious if you don't overthink it or swallow the prevailing frameworks whole, he once wrote. Quote, after that, just relentlessly identify your assumptions and challenge them, unquote. Podhorzer applies that approach to everything. When he coached his now adult son's Little League team in the D.C. suburbs, he trained the boys not to swing at most pitches, a tactic that infuriated both their and their opponents' parents, but won the team a series of championships. Trump's election in 2016... I have no idea. That's like weightless example. If I was
that's how you should play baseball. You're not supposed to swing at fucking everything. Shut the hell up. Nobody cared.
Trump's election in 2016, credited in part to his unusual strength among the sort of blue-collar white voters who once dominated the AFL-CIO, prompted Podhorzer to question his assumptions about voter behavior. He began circulating weekly number-crunching memos to a small circle of allies and hosting strategy sessions in D.C. But when he began to worry about the election itself, he didn't want to seem paranoid. It was only after months of research that he introduced his concerns in his newsletter in October of 2019. The usual tools of data, analytics, and polling would not be sufficient in a situation where the president himself was trying to disrupt the election, he wrote. Quote,
you mean run?
Quote, most of our planning takes us through election day, he noted. Quote, but we are not prepared for the two most likely outcomes. Trump losing and refusing to concede, and Trump winning the Electoral College despite losing the popular vote by corrupting the voting process in key states. Quote, we desperately need to systematically red team this election so that we can anticipate and plan for the worst we know will be coming our way, unquote.
Oh my God.
It turned out Podhorzer wasn't the only one thinking in these terms. He began to hear from others eager to join forces. The Fight Back Table, a coalition of quote-unquote resistance organizations, had begun scenario planning around the potential for a contested election, gathering liberal activists at the local and national level into what they called the Democracy Defense Coalition. Voting rights and civil rights organizations were raising alarms. A group of former elected officials was researching emergency powers they feared Trump might exploit. Protect Democracy was assembling a bipartisan election crisis task force. Quote, it turned out that once you said it out loud, people agreed, Podhorzer says, and it started building momentum. Thank you, Seal 77. Scribe, they all believe they were in right and don't fear retribution. They feel they are vindicated. That's what I'm getting from this. And thank you, Understatement. So is this where the villain monologues about his whole plan? Also, how much would you bet that the right reads this and does absolutely nothing? Well, I'm not sure what they could do.
Right.
I mean, yeah, either the people writing this are stealthily exposing something insidious, or they're crowing a success without understanding what the implications of what they're saying actually mean to anybody else who's not on their team.
And that's what I'm thinking. I'm like the balls of the people who are releasing this. Like, holy shit, have they gotten that confident that they can literally do anything they want?
You know what? You know what's even more ridiculous now that I'm thinking about it? As far as I can tell, all of this information, given the length and breadth of all of these actions and organizations and communications and so on, all of this, if it hasn't been, and I haven't read every story out there, none of this was presented to the public by the media.
Yeah.
None of it.
We're only finding any of it.
We're only finding out about this grand alliance now. These organizations, I'm only hearing of their names for the first time now.
And they absolutely fucking knew. There's no way that every news outlet in America had no idea.
No, some of them were probably part of it.
Oh
okay. He spent months pondering scenarios and talking to experts. It wasn't hard to find liberals who saw Trump as a dangerous dictator, but Podhorzer was careful to steer clear of hysteria.
What?
What
I talked about how he would try to steal the election and fuck up the results
in the fall of 2019.
Yeah.
What he wanted to know was not how American democracy was dying, but how it might be kept alive. You know, scientists that go into a test with an assumption of an outcome before they even begin doing anything. Wow. Okay. The chief difference between the U.S. and countries that lost their grip on democracy, he concluded, was that America's decentralized election system couldn't be rigged in one fell swoop. That presented an opportunity to shore it up.
What?
On March 3rd, okay, first off, whether it was intended or not, the one thing I will at least give credit to, this is one of the most complete and in-depth journalism pieces I've ever read on this show.
Fucking tell me about it, dude.
On March 3rd, Podhorzer drafted a 3-page confidential memo titled, quote, Threats to the 2020 Election, unquote. Quote, Trump has made it clear on March 3rd, of 2020. So before the lockdowns or at the lockdown, I don't know. Trump has made it clear that this will not be a fair election and that he will reject anything but his own re-election as fake and rigged, he wrote. Quote, on November 3rd, should the media report otherwise, he will use the right-wing information system to establish his narrative and incite his supporters to protest, unquote. The memo laid out 4 categories of challenges: attacks on voters, attacks on election administration, attacks on Trump's political opponents, and, quote, efforts to reverse the results of the election, unquote. Thank you again, the Crusader. This really seems like a ploy to bait Trump supporters into a frenzy. Then when it happens, they'll excommunicate the right wing from government for, quote, inciting violence. Just my gut feeling.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'll definitely be like, see, this is the reaction we were thinking it was going to happen. Why would they do this if this wasn't true?
Then COVID-19 erupted at the height of the primary election season. Normal methods of voting were no longer safe for voters or the mostly elderly volunteers who normally staff polling places. But political disagreements intensified by Trump's crusade against mail-in voting, prevented some states from making it easier to vote absentee and for jurisdictions to count those votes in a timely manner. Chaos ensued. Ohio shut down in-person voting for its primary, leading to a minuscule turnout. A poll worker shortage in Milwaukee, where Wisconsin's heavily Democratic black population is concentrated, left just 5 open polling places, down from 182. In New York, vote counting took more than a month. Suddenly, the potential for a November meltdown was obvious. But it had nothing to do with Trump, though. Anyway, in his apartment in the D.C. suburbs, Podhorzer began working from his laptop at his kitchen table, holding back-to-back Zoom meetings for hours a day with his network of contacts across the progressive universe. The labor movement, the institutional left, like Planned Parenthood and Greenpeace, resistance groups like Indivisible and Move On, progressive data geeks and strategists, representatives of donors and foundations, state-level grassroots organizers, racial justice activists, and others. In April, Podhorzer began hosting a weekly 2.5-hour Zoom. It was structured around a series of rapid-fire 5-minute presentations on everything from which ads were working to messaging to legal strategy. The invitation-only gathering soon attracted hundreds, creating a rare shared base of knowledge for the fractious progressive movement. Quote, at the risk of talking trash about the left, there's not a lot of good information sharing, unquote, says Anat Schenker-Osorio, a close Podhorzer friend whose poll-tested messaging guidance shaped the group's approach. Quote, there's a lot of not invented here syndrome where people won't consider a good idea if they didn't come up with it, unquote. The meetings became the galactic center for a constellation of operatives across the left who shared overlapping goals but didn't usually work in concert. The group had no name, no leaders, and no hierarchy, but it kept the disparate actors in sync. Quote, Pod, I'm guessing that's the guy's nickname, Pod played a critical behind-the-scenes role in keeping different pieces of the movement infrastructure in communication and aligned, unquote, says Maurice Mitchell, national director of the Working Families Party. Quote, you have the litigation space, the organizing space, the political people just focused on the W, the win, and their strategies aren't always aligned. He allowed this ecosystem to work together, unquote. Protecting the election would require an effort of unprecedented scale. As 2020 progressed, it stretched to Congress, Silicon Valley, and the nation's state houses. It drew energy from the summer's racial justice protests, many of whose leaders were a key part of the Liberal Alliance. And eventually it reached across the aisle into the world of Trump-skeptical Republicans, appalled by his attacks on democracy. Did the Republicans involved in this know who they were effectively working with then? If this was all a disjointed, unseparated, or I should say separated, cell structure organization with one key person at the top, was it a bipartisan effort? What?
I don't think it really matters to them whether or not they knew who they were working with. The bottom line is they were useful to them.
This is insane.
This goes on for a long. Do you guys want me to keep reading?
I'm fucking enthralled, dude. Like,
I do not mind if you keep going on this one.
Securing the vote. The first task was overhauling America's bulky election infrastructure in the middle of a pandemic. For the thousands of local, mostly nonpartisan officials who administer elections, the most urgent need was money. They needed protective equipment like masks, gloves, and hand sanitizer. They needed to pay for postcards letting people know they could vote absentee or, in some states, to mail ballots to every voter. They needed additional staff and scanners to process ballots. In March, activists appealed to Congress to steer COVID relief money to election administration. Led by the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, more than 150 organizations signed a letter to every member of Congress seeking $2 billion in election funding. It was somewhat successful. The CARES Act, passed later that month, contained $400 million in grants to state election administrators. But the next tranche of relief funding didn't add to that number. It wasn't going to be enough. But the next tranche of relief funding, didn't add to that. Okay. Private philanthropy stepped into the breach. Thank you again, Piccolo. Screw the format. This is a train wreck. Keep going. Yeah. An assortment of foundations contributed tens of millions in election administration funding. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative chipped in $300 million. Quote, it was a failure at the federal level that 2,500 local election officials were forced to apply for philanthropic grants to fill their needs, unquote, says Amber McReynolds, a former Denver election official who heads the nonpartisan National Vote at Home Institute. McReynolds' 2-year-old organization became a clearinghouse for a nation struggling to adapt. The institute gave secretaries of state from both parties technical advice on everything from which vendors to use to how to locate drop boxes. Local officials are the most trusted sources of election information, but few can afford a press secretary, so the institute distributed communication toolkits. In a presentation to Podhorser's group, McReynolds detailed the importance of absentee ballots for shortening lines at polling places and preventing an election crisis. The Institute's work helped 37 states and D.C. bolster mail-in voting. But it wouldn't be worth much if people didn't take advantage. Part of the challenge was logistical. Each state had different rules for when and how ballots should be requested and returned. The Voter Participation Center, which in a normal year would have deployed canvassers door to door to get out the vote, instead conducted focus groups in April and May to find out what would get people to vote by mail. In August and September, it sent ballot applications to 15 million people in key states, 4.6 million of whom returned them. In mailings and digital ads, the group urged people not to wait for Election Day. Quote, all the work we have done for 17 years was built for this moment of bringing democracy to people's doorsteps, unquote, says Tom Lopak, the center's CEO. The effort had to overcome heightened skepticism in some communities. Many Black voters preferred to exercise their franchise in person or didn't trust the mail. National civil rights groups worked with local organizations to get the word out that this was the best way to ensure one's vote was counted. In Philadelphia, for example, advocates distributed, quote, voting safety kits, unquote, containing masks, hand sanitizer, and informational brochures. Quote, we had to get the message out that this is safe, reliable, and you can trust it, unquote, says Hannah Freed of All Voting is Local. At the same time, Democratic lawyers battled a historic tide of pre-election litigation. The pandemic intensified the party's usual tangling in the courts. But the lawyers noticed something else as well. Quote, the litigation brought by the Trump campaign of a piece with the broader campaign to sow doubt about mail voting was making novel claims and using theories no court has ever accepted, unquote, says Wendy Weiser, a voting rights expert at the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU. Quote, they read more like lawsuits designed to send a message rather than achieve a legal outcome.
What?
In the end, nearly half the electorate cast ballots by mail in 2020, practically a revolution in how people vote. About a quarter voted early in person. Only a quarter of voters cast their ballots the traditional way, in person, on Election Day. The disinformation defense. Bad actors spreading false information is nothing new. For decades, campaigns have grappled with everything from anonymous calls claiming the election has been rescheduled to flyers spreading nasty smears about candidates' families. But Trump's lies and conspiracy theories, What did you use to describe this entire secret cabal above?
Uh-huh.
Trump's lies and conspiracy theories, the viral force of social media, and the involvement of foreign meddlers
Jesus.
made disinformation a broader, deeper threat to the 2020 vote. Laura Quinn, a veteran progressive operative who co-founded Catalyst, began studying this problem a few years ago. She piloted a nameless secret project, which she has never before publicly discussed, that tracked disinformation online and tried to figure out how to combat it. Who qualifies what as disinformation, might I ask? That's me talking, not the article. One component was tracking dangerous lies that might otherwise spread unnoticed.
Dangerous lies.
How can they be dangerous if they spread unnoticed? Okay, researchers then provided information to campaigners or the media to track down the sources and expose them. The most important takeaway from Quinn's research, however, was that engaging with toxic content only made it worse. Quote, when you get attacked, the instinct is to push back, call it out, say, this isn't true, Quinn says. Quote, but the more engagement something gets, the more platforms boost it. The algorithm reads that as, oh, this is popular, people want more of it, unquote. I don't really need to read the next paragraph to understand what the obvious solution then is, right? Don't engage, just remove. I'm guessing the solution, she concluded, was to pressure platforms to enforce their rules, both by removing content or accounts that spread disinformation and by more aggressively policing it in the first place. Quote, the platforms have policies against certain types of malign behavior, but they haven't been enforcing them, she says. Quinn's research gave ammunition to advocates pushing social media platforms to take a harder line. In November 2019, Mark Zuckerberg invited 9 civil rights leaders to dinner at his home, where they warned him about the danger of the election-related falsehoods that were already spreading unchecked. Were those 9 civil rights leaders part of Podhoser's cabal by any chance?
I'm betting.
Quote, it took pushing, urging, conversations, brainstorming, all of that to get to a place where we ended up with more rigorous rules and enforcement, said Vanita Gupta, president and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, which attended the dinner and also met with Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey and others.
Wrong.
Back up just a second.
They did not end up with more rigorous rules and enforcement. They ended up with more targeted rules and enforcement.
Well, remember, their whole thing was, we just are going to make sure they enforce their rules, and then they just told us more rules.
In parentheses, Gupta has been nominated for Associate Attorney General by President Biden.
Sounds right.
Quote, it was a struggle, but we got to the point where they understood the problem. Was it enough? Probably not. Was it later than we wanted? Yes, but it was really important given the level of official disinformation that they had those rules in place and were tagging things and taking them down, unquote. Spreading the word. Beyond battling bad information, there was a need to explain a rapidly changing election process. I thought the process was secure. It was crucial for voters to understand that despite what Trump was saying, mail-in votes weren't susceptible to fraud and that it would be normal if some states weren't finished counting votes on election night.
It wasn't.
Dick Gephardt, the Democratic former House leader turned high-powered lobbyist, spearheaded one coalition. Well, that puts me all sorts of... Oh, my God.
That part was involved, eh? I'm not shocked.
Quote, we wanted to get a really bipartisan group of former elected officials, cabinet secretaries, military leaders, and so on, aimed mainly at messaging to the public, but also speaking to local officials, the secretaries of state, attorneys general, governors who would be in the eye of the storm, to let them know we wanted to help, says Gephardt. who worked with his contacts in the private sector to put $20 million behind the effort. Wamp, the former GOP congressman, worked through the nonpartisan reform group Issue 1 to rally Republicans. Quote, "We thought we should bring some bipartisan element of unity around what constitutes a free and fair election," unquote, Wamp says. The 22 Democrats and 22 Republicans on the National Council on Election Integrity, which almost sounds like it's an official governmental body by the name, doesn't it?
It really does.
There's a lingering question that's floating around in my head that I think we all know the answer to, but I have to ask it. Do you think that if this election had any chance of going Trump's way, they would have extended this much effort to make sure that the integrity of it stayed intact? Like if
Well, I mean, their only scenarios were Trump losing or Trump winning in a corrupted way. That was their only two scenarios of the outcome of the vote.
right, there was literally no way or no room for the opportunity of Trump winning legitimately on their list.
Monkey, you need to check your Streamlabs, says Travis.
My Streamlabs is open. I don't have anything.
Okay, well, Travis Gardner said to check your Streamlabs, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, I didn't get a notice. I'm sorry, bud. There you go, Monk. You get to go out on the damn Warren Commission report. Yeah.
Okay.
This is insane. And it's really starting to, I mean, you know, you use actual reporting, and it is, and that's great. But where's the outrage?
They ran ads in 6 states, made statements, wrote articles, and alerted local officials to potential problems. Yeah, all the while with no one knowing that they were all associated with one another. Quote, "We had rabid Trump supporters who agreed to serve on the council based on the idea that this is honest," Wamp says. "This is going to be as important," he told them, "to convince the liberals when Trump wins. Quote, whichever way it cuts, we're going to stick together." Did you know what the mission statement of the founder of this little network was? Did you?
Oh my God.
Thank you, Grant Miller. This is seriously reading like OJ's memoirs. I did it. Here's how. The Voting Rights Lab. What are all these? I've never heard of any of these things. The Voting Rights Lab and Into Action, whatever that is, created state-specific memes and graphics spread by email, text, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, urging that every vote be counted. Together, they were viewed more than 1 billion times. Protect Democracy's Election Task Force issued reports and held media briefings with high-profile experts across the political spectrum, resulting in widespread coverage of potential election issues and fact-checking of Trump's false claims. The organization's tracking polls found, where is the fact-checking of Biden's false claims? Where is the fact-checking or any kind of scrutiny of the Democratic candidates? If this is a bipartisan effort, why is everything tilted towards one side?
Yeah. That's the like I said, that is the number one thing that keeps coming up in my head. Is this just like, this is awfully targeted to specifically one side and one area for this to be a nonpartisan or bipartisan effort to keep the entire system intact. Only one side is being regulated. And I guess the narrative they can push is, well, the other side's perfect. They don't do anything wrong. They don't lie or tell any, or spread any misinformation. But that's bullshit.
I just love the wording here. Fact checking of Trump's false claims. Are you going in with the presumption that they're false then? Was that it? I mean, if you're going to fact check a claim, okay, but you already know it's false? Okay, the organization's tracking polls found the message was being heard. The percentage of the public that didn't expect to know the winner on election night gradually rose until by late October, it was over 70%. A majority also believed that a prolonged count wasn't a sign of problems. Quote, "We knew exactly what Trump was going to do. He was going to try to use the fact that Democrats voted by mail and Republicans voted in person to make it look like he was ahead, claim victory, say the mail-in votes were fraudulent, and try to get them thrown out," unquote. says Protect Democracy's Basson. I don't know who that is. Setting public expectations ahead of time helped undercut those lies. Or helped cover your secret moves behind the scenes. The Alliance took a common set of themes from the research Schenker Osario presented at Podhoser's Zooms. Imagine saying that sentence like 10 years ago. It'd be absolute gibberish. Studies have shown that when people don't think their vote will count or fear casting it will be a hassle, they're far less likely to participate. Thank you again, Drew W. Trump wasn't part of a side. He was not part of political elite, so the entire system ganged up to oust him because he was doing great. If there was a lack of suspicion of that before this article, okay. Throughout election season, members of Podhorser's group, you mean conspiracy, the word you used yourself, minimized incidents of voter intimidation. What? Members of Podhorser's group minimized incidents of voter intimidation and tamped down rising liberal hysteria about Trump's expected refusal to concede. That was the basis of this whole thing.
They literally.
Oh, wow.
They built it off that premise. Holy fucking shit, dude.
They didn't want to amplify false claims by engaging them or put people off voting by suggesting a rigged game. Quote, when you say these claims of fraud are spurious, what people hear is fraud, Schenker Osario says. What we saw in our pre-election research was that anything that affirmed Trump's power or cast him as an authoritarian diminished people's desire to vote. So
telling people their vote doesn't matter makes them not want to vote? I'm shocked.
And so what, your mission was to support Trump as a legitimate non-authoritarian leader?
I'm so confused. Okay.
I am confuzzled does not begin to describe what the hell I'm reading here or what as I'm trying to process it.
The whole reason that this entire thing supposedly happened was because of the fact that Trump was claiming that there might be something illegitimate going on with the votes. So how did we get back here?
Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. Bipartisan as in Republicans and Democrats that wanted Trump out. That's what they're talking about. Republicans that were Trump skeptical. It was bipartisan in name only. It was ideologically purified. Podhorser, meanwhile, was warning everyone he knew that polls were underestimating Trump's support. The data he shared with media organizations who would be calling the election was, quote, tremendously useful, unquote, to understand. Who said that? Who are you quoting there? To understand what was happening as the votes rolled in, according to a member of a major network's political unit who spoke with Podhorser before Election Day.
Oh my God.
Not going to tell us who, though, huh?
Most analysts had recognized there would be a blue shift in key battlegrounds, if you say so. The surge of voters breaking towards Democrats driven by tallies of mail-in ballots, or a nationwide conspiracy to guide the narrative.
Real quick, I have a couple of donations. Evolved Potato, thank you. Some of the mail-in ballots should have been thrown out. Like all of the mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania didn't get verified signatures, so legally they should have been thrown out because they didn't follow the law. Plus, any that came in postmarked after Election Day should have been legally, but yeah, we know how that turned out. And Bunny Slaughter, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but I've waited a year for this. Sunday was my birthday. Could you please sing? Yeah, I can do that. You're close enough. There were people asking, hey, my birthday's in April. Will you sing for me on Friday or Saturday? Like, no. Come to Monkey in the Morning for that. But for Bunny, it's your birthday. This is for you. And a 1 and a 2. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
I'm sorry, my brain is still kind of broken.
Happy birthday, dear Bunny.
Bunny Slaughter.
That's ominous.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. I hope you have a good one.
Most analysts had recognized there would be a blue shift in key battleground states, the surge of votes breaking towards Democrats driven by tallies of mail-in ballots, but they hadn't comprehended how much better Trump was likely to do on Election Day. Quote, being able to document how big the absentee wave would be and the variance by state was essential, the analyst says. I'm still mind stumbling over the Union of Media Organizations and this group. People power. The racial justice uprising sparked by George Floyd's killing in May was not primarily a political movement.
What?
What?
What now?
The organizers who helped lead it wanted to harness its momentum for the election without allowing it to be co-opted by politicians.
Oh my. Okay.
What? What? It was not a political movement, but was aimed at momentum for the elect. What?
About to drop an NP here. Good God.
Many of those organizers were part of Podhorser's network. From the activists in battleground states who partnered with the Democracy Defense Coalition to organizations with leading roles in the movement for Black Lives. The best way to ensure people's voices were heard, they decided, was to pressure multimedia companies to silence voices. Was to protect their ability to vote. Quote, we started thinking about a program that would complement the traditional election protection area, but also didn't rely on calling the police. What?
What?
Says Nalini Stamp, the Working Families Party's national organizing director. They created a force of, quote, election defenders, unquote. This is sounding a lot like fast response justice teams that I was hearing years ago to replace police and the restorative justice abolitionist movement stuff, who, unlike traditional poll watchers, were trained in de-escalation techniques. During early voting and on election day, they surrounded lines of voters in urban areas with a joy to the polls effort that turned the act of casting a ballot into a street party. Black organizers also recruited thousands of poll workers to ensure polling places would stay open in their communities.
Did they just admit to partisan people being right up at the polling places? Because that's illegal in most places.
The summer uprising, they keep using uprising. I hate to keep doing this, but it's absolutely true. I did a video several years ago after the whole Ferguson protests where Fusion, or was it Splinter? Maybe it was Splinter. Either way, they kept trying to recategorize the riots of Ferguson as uprisings because riots were racist and derogatory or something as a word.
Oh, yeah.
So every time I see that, I just think you're trying to sprinkle sugar on an absolute disaster. The summer uprising had shown that people power could have a massive impact. Yeah, on Target stores and small businesses that got burned down. Activists began preparing to reprise the demonstrations if Trump tried to steal the election. Reprise the demonstrations.
They were going to riot if Trump won?
Quote, Americans plan,
Democratic?
Quote, Americans plan widespread protests if Trump interferes with election, unquote, Reuters reported in October. One of many such stories. More than 150 liberal groups, from the Women's March to the Sierra Club to Color of Change, from Democrats.com to the Democratic Socialists of America, joined the, quote, Protect the Results, unquote, coalition. The group's now defunct website had a map listing 400 planned post-election demonstrations to be activated via text message as soon as November 4th. To stop the coup they feared, the left was ready to flood the streets.
They were ready 2 days before the election to protest the results of the election?
As soon as November 4th, the day after the election.
That's
Oh, yeah, third this year. Okay.
The plan was in place to activate it the day after the election.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay, this is an interesting subheading. Strange bedfellows. About a week before Election Day, Podhorzer received an unexpected message. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce wanted to talk. Now, just as a reminder to everybody, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is not a governmental body. It is a lobbying organization. It is an independent thing. There are a lot of people, and I was one of them for most of my young life, that thought the U.S. Chamber of Commerce was like, you know, the local Chamber of Commerce on a national federal level. No, it's not. It's a lobbying organization. The AFL-CIO and the Chamber have a long history of antagonism. Thank you, Dark Resurrect. So conspiracy to incite a riot then?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't. No, these are protests. These are uprisings. Though neither organization is explicitly partisan.
wow.
Yes, you're right. They're not explicitly partisan, but they are partisan. Otherwise, why would you be saying strange bedfellows and antagonism? The influential business lobby has poured hundreds of millions of dollars into Republican campaigns, just as the nation's unions funneled hundreds of millions to Democrats. In other words, by financial trend, the Chamber of Commerce is conservative/Republican, and the AFL-CIO is liberal/Democrat. This is not a secret. Why? On one side is labor, on the other, management, locked in an eternal struggle for power and resources. Yeah, it almost seems kind of insidious, doesn't it, that these two individual private organizations wield such power. But behind the scenes, the business community was engaged in its own anxious discussions about how the election and its aftermath might unfold. No, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which does not represent the business community. It is a lobbying organization run by a small group of people. Stop conflating independent organizations with representing entire demographics. This sounds like a TEDx all over again. The summer's racial justice protests had sent a signal to business owners too. Yeah, your shit's going to get burned down for no reason. The potential for economy disrupting civil disorder.
Wait, economy disrupting civil disorder.
Yeah, and where was that economy disrupting civil disorder coming from in the racial justice protests? Quote, with tensions running high, there was a lot of concern about unrest around the election or a breakdown in our normal way we handle contentious elections, says Neil Bradley, the Chamber's executive vice president and chief policy. Hold. You had, I'm talking to the cabal here, you had a plan by text to initiate protests the day after the election if things weren't going the way you wanted. And the concern of the business community was there was going to be economy disrupting civil disorder as a result of the racial justice protests of the summer. Does it sound like to anybody else that there was a gun being held to certain people's heads?
Yeah. All those companies, they basically came to those companies and said, hey, we got this red button that we're going to push after the election, and we got a fucking army of people who love free shit.
Yep.
Thank you, Drew W. Hence why the unions are fighting for teachers to not work and still get paid with zero pushback from Biden. I'm sorry. I'm reading this as it is written, guys.
Oh my
I
God.
don't usually get this animated, but I can't see any other conclusion based on what we're reading versus what we're... Okay, let's keep going. With tensions running high, there was a lot of concern about unrest around the election or a breakdown in our normal way we handle contentious elections, says Neil Bradley, the Chamber of Commerce's executive vice president and chief policy officer. These worries had led the chamber to release a pre-election statement with the Business Roundtable, a Washington-based CEOs group, as well as associations of manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers, calling for patience and confidence as votes were counted. Even though you're aligning with an organization that was ready to start protests on a whim. Thank you, understatement. And here is where we buried the bodies. I gotta say, this is one of the most remarkable pieces of journalism. And this is actual journalism, but it's one of the most remarkable pieces of seemingly unself-aware confessions of insanity being branded as though it's some triumph.
I don't even know how to feel. Like, I mean, I know how to feel about this. I just don't. What do you say about this?
But Bradley wanted to send a broader, more bipartisan message. He reached out to Podhorser, the kingpin here, through an intermediary both men declined to name.
Are you serious?
Wow.
So you were so proud to be involved in this effort that you had a firewall to protect your identity from being revealed as associating with Podhorser. But now that the outcome has been achieved, you're at least comfortable enough to admit that you were involved. Good God.
Okay, all jokes aside, and I, you know, just to lighten things up a little bit, this would be a good fucking movie.
It would.
Holy shit. Like, in a couple years, this is going to be a good ass movie.
Agreeing that their unlikely alliance would be powerful. Yeah, these two individual men, by the way, they began to discuss a joint statement pledging their organization's shared commitment to a fair and peaceful election. They chose their words carefully and scheduled the statement's release for maximum impact. As it was being finalized, Christian leaders signaled their interest in joining, further broadening its reach. Were the Christian leaders aware of who they were allying themselves with? Given the disjointed and unconnected nature of this web of conspiracy you're outlining here.
Probably not.
The statement was released on Election Day under the names of Chamber CEO Thomas Donahue, AFL-CIO President Richard Trumka, and the heads of the National Association of Evangelicals and the National African American Clergy Network. Quote, "It is imperative that election officials be given the space and time to count every vote in accordance with applicable laws," it stated. Quote, "We call on the media, the candidates, and the American people to exercise patience with the process and trust in our system, even if it requires more time than usual," unquote. The groups added, quote, "Although we may not always agree on desired outcomes up and down the ballot, we are united in our call for the American democratic process to proceed without violence, intimidation, or any other tactic that makes us weaker as a nation." Yeah, except for election defenders and planned nationwide protests if things didn't go the way you wanted.
Now, the conspiracy that a good majority of the Black Lives Matter and other protests that were strangely well-funded, well-organized, and strategically placed throughout America were funded by groups like the one we're talking about right now, that's an insidious right-wing conspiracy, by the way. But it's sounding less so the more we read this.
Thank you, understatement. This is the exposition at the end of a heist movie. This is watching the gang plan the heist before it executes. This is like Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
Showing up, standing down. Election night began with many Democrats despairing. Trump was running ahead of pre-election polling, winning Ohio and Texas easily, and keeping Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania too close to call. But Podhorser was unperturbed when I spoke to him that night.
You knew about all this shit beforehand?
Yeah, you knew to talk to this secret Svengali before we. Who wrote this?
I believe there's more birthdays in the chat too. But
I'm sorry, 1 second. Molly Ball. I don't know who Molly Ball is. Let me get.
I don't know, but she just made her career with this one.
Let me get back to where I just. Okay, thank you, Drew W. Remember, there is no deep state. Yeah. Okay, we got 3 birthdays: Grisella, Emily Prozinski, and Understatement.
Okay.
Let's do Grisilla, and then I'll read a bit, and then we'll do Emily, and then I'll read a bit, and then we'll do Understatement.
All right. So Grizz, it's your birthday. Around here we do this. This one's for you. And a 1. And a 2. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
From Cookie Monster Scribe.
Happy birthday, dear Grisella.
This fucking story, right?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Grizz.
Okay. But Podhorser was unperturbed when I spoke to him that night. The returns were exactly in line with his modeling. He had been warning for weeks that Trump voters' turnout was surging. As the numbers dribbled out, he could tell that as long as all the votes were counted, Trump would lose. The Liberal Alliance, I thought it was bipartisan. The Liberal Alliance gathered for an 11 p.m. Zoom call. Hundreds joined. Many were freaking out. Quote, "It was really important for me and the team in that moment to help ground people in what we had already known was true," says Angela Peoples, director for the Democracy Defense Coalition. Podhorser presented data to show the group that victory was in hand. While he was talking, Fox News surprised everyone by calling Arizona for Biden. The public awareness campaign had worked. TV anchors were bending over backward to counsel caution and frame the vote count accurately. The question then became what to do next. The conversation that followed was a difficult one, led by the activists charged with the protest strategy. Quote, "We wanted to be mindful of when was the right time to call for moving masses of people into the street," Peoples says. As much as they were eager to mount a show of strength, mobilizing immediately could backfire and put people at risk. Protests that devolved into violent clashes would give Trump a pretext to send in federal agents or troops as he had over the summer. And rather than elevate Trump's complaints by continuing to fight him, the alliance wanted to send the message that the people had spoken. So the word went out, stand down, protect the results, which is an organization. Okay, another, God, how many of these are there? Protect the results announced that it would, quote, not be activating the entire national mobilization network today, but remains ready to activate if necessary, unquote. On Twitter, outraged progressives wondered what was going on. Why wasn't anyone trying to stop Trump's coup? Where were all the protests? Podhorser credits the activists for their restraint. Quote, "They had spent so much time getting ready to hit the streets on Wednesday, but they did it," he says. Quote, "Wednesday through Friday, there was not a single Antifa versus Proud Boys incident like everyone was expecting. And when that didn't materialize, I don't think the Trump campaign had a backup plan," unquote.
So,
real quick, can I get a donation? Thank you, Mr. Scott, who says, also Johnny Hellcat and my birthday too. Sing, you beautiful bastard. We already did sing to Johnny Hellcat, and we will add you to the list, Mr. Scott. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let's sing to Emily now, shall we?
Emily, it's your birthday. This one's for you. And a 1 and a 2.
Happy birthday to you.
happy birthday, Emma.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh my God, this fucking story.
Happy birthday, dear Emily.
I hope you had a good one.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Emily. I hope you had a good one. Satsu, I cut you off for that. Did you have something you were wanted to add there?
There's so much going on in my brain right now. I'm just trying to process it all, because Trump is being called the orchestrator of an insurrection, right? He directly and specifically led the insurrection
by not verbalizing in any way, shape, or form that he wanted it to happen. But here we have a group of people saying that they had full 100% control of hundreds of thousands of people across the country, and at the send of a text message could have mobilized thousands of people to burn down cities and loot shit at any moment things didn't go their way. And everybody's like, yeah, it's cool. That's fine.
Real quick. So add to the list, Check Your Logic's mom. We need a name for Check Your Logic's mom. And thank you, the Crusader, once again. I recall a nation 80 or so years ago that was dealing with the depression, political unrest, and strategic protests. Long story short, a suspicious election gave a funny mustache power. Okay, I'll do another paragraph or two, and then we'll sing to understatement. Activists reoriented the Protect the Results protest toward a weekend of celebration. Quote, counter their disinfo with our confidence and get ready to celebrate, unquote, read the messaging guidance Schenker Osario presented to the Liberal Alliance on Friday, November 6th. So then am I to understand that the quote unquote spontaneous demonstrations of celebration at the time that Biden was effectively declared the winner was totally spontaneous?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Totally.
Considering this person absolutely and 100% said the total opposite, according to the powers that be, yeah, it was totally spontaneous.
Quote, declare and fortify our win. Vibe, confident, forward-looking, unified, not passive, anxious, unquote. The voters, not the candidates, would be the protagonists of the story. The story. The planned day of celebration happened to coincide with the election being called on November 7th. I'm totally shocked that it coincided.
It happened to, by the way.
Happened to. Activists dancing in the streets of Philadelphia blasted Beyonce over an attempted Trump campaign press conference. The Trumpers' next confab was scheduled for 4 Seasons total landscaping outside the city center, which activists believe was not a coincidence. Oh, but it just happened to coincide. That is a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, the people of Philadelphia own the streets of Philadelphia, unquote, crows the Working Families Party's Mitchell. Quote, we made them look ridiculous by contrasting our joyous celebration of democracy with their clown show, unquote. The votes had been counted, Trump had lost, but the battle wasn't over. Thank you, Snubberth. Satsu, if the Final Fantasy XIV announcement is over, new barrier, healer called Sage with the new expansion.
Oh, really?
Let's sing to understatement, shall we?
I'm excited.
Understatement. It's your birthday around here. We do this. This one's for you. And a 1. And a 2. Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy
birthday to you.
I hope you had a good one.
Happy birthday, dear understatement.
And that's not an understatement.
Happy
birthday
to you.
Happy birthday, sir. Hope you had a good one.
And did we get a name for Check Your Logic's mom? Put that prominently in the chat so when I get to the next pause here.
Oh, we have Mr. Scott, too.
And Mr. Scott. Okay. It was around 10 p.m. on election. Sorry, I skipped a part. The 5 steps to victory. Even though you already won? Okay. In Podhorzer's presentations, winning the vote was only the first step to winning the election. After that came winning the count, winning the certification, winning the electoral college, and winning the transition steps that are normally formalities, but that he knew Trump would see as opportunities for disruption. Nowhere would that be more evident than in Michigan, where Trump's pressure on local Republicans came perilously close to working, and where liberal and conservative pro-democracy forces joined to counter it. Yeah, because pressuring officials is good when you do it. It was around 10 p.m. on election night in Detroit when a flurry of texts lit up the phone of Art Reyes III. A busload of Republican election observers had arrived at the TCF Center where votes were being tallied. They were crowding the vote counting tables, refusing to wear masks, heckling the mostly black workers. Reyes, a Flint native who leads the We the People Michigan, was expecting this. Okay. For months, conservative groups had been sowing suspicion about urban vote fraud. Quote, the language was, they're going to steal the election. There will be fraud in Detroit long before any vote was cast, Reyes said. What? So that's
You're going to hurt yourself if you ask this question.
So that's a sin now? Believing there will be fraud is a sin? The entire basis of this entire story was a belief a year before the election that everything was going to be fraudulent? To start this web of influence in disparate parties together to achieve one outcome?
Here's that's the huge irony of this whole thing. The narrative here is the fact that Trump even suggested that there could be any fraud is utterly blasphemous. It's ridiculous, and we need to stop that monster because he thinks that there's going to be some kind of fraud. But the entirety of our attempt to stop him is based on the fact that we believe that he's going to do something fraudulent. Oh my God!
Let's sing to Mr. Scott.
Mr. Scott, it's your birthday. This one's yours. And a 1 and a 2. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
This is really painful for me, guys.
Happy birthday to Mr. Scott.
Too many of y'all got birthdays, god damn it.
Happy birthday
to you.
How many of y'all actually got a birthday today?
That's what I was wondering too. And we still need, if I missed it, I apologize. I still need Check Your Logic's mom's name, or at least a name to go by. Tag me in that tweet. I will try to find it.
Otherwise I'm calling her Monkey's Play Toy.
FYI, nobody cares, but this new fucking healer looks awesome. Oh my God. I am pumped. I am so fucking pumped.
He made his way to the arena, this is Reyes, and sent word to his network. Within 45 minutes, dozens of reinforcements had arrived. As they entered the arena to provide a counterweight to the GOP observers inside, Reyes took down their cell phone numbers and added them to a massive text chain. Racial justice activists from Detroit, this is a group name, from Detroit Will Breathe, worked alongside suburban women from Femmes for Dems and local election officials. Reyes left at 3 a.m., handing the text chain over to a disability activist. What? As they mapped out the steps in the election certification process, activists settled on a strategy of foregrounding the people's right to decide, demanding their votes be heard, and calling attention to the racial implications of disenfranchising Black Detroiters. They flooded the Wayne County Canvassing Board's November 17th certification meeting with on-message testimony. Despite a Trump tweet, the Republican board members certified Detroit's votes. Thank you, James Colley. It's my unbirthday. Well, congratulations for that. Thank you, James. Wow. Thank you again, Drew W. Not that there would be fraud, but that it would be called out and could be believed when tons of irregularities are everywhere. It was a campaign in how to squash the possibility of it being investigated.
Sounds about right. Yeah, it was a preemptive attack that worked flawlessly to prevent anybody who didn't want to look like they were on the side of the conspiracy theorists to even entertain it, like to even look into it. And that's why a majority of all the cases that they brought forth of fraud were literally thrown out and not even looked at.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that is crazy.
Okay, I'm getting... I don't see a name for the mother. If somebody has a name, then Belias Fire. My brother has a birthday today, and he's listening. He goes by Corey. Thank you, Devil Fruit Zero. Is America over? I don't know what the hell's going on, but Corey. Monkey?
What was the name? I'm sorry.
Corey.
Before that, Evolve Potato, thank you. Wasn't the certification of Detroit's votes only after one of the people's families were threatened? Yes, they threatened and doxed her children. Corey, it's your birthday. This one's for you. Hope you like it. And a 1 and a 2. Happy birthday to you.
I don't like that one.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday, though.
Happy birthday, dear Corey. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Corey. I hope you had a good one. Can you and me have been on different paths on that one?
Yes.
That was awesome. You were more cartoony, and I went.
Election boards were one pressure point. Another was GOP-controlled legislatures who Trump believed could declare the election void and appoint their own electors. And so the president invited the GOP leaders of the Michigan legislature, House Speaker Lee Chatfield and Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, to Washington on November 20th. It was a perilous moment. If Chatfield and Shirkey agreed to do Trump's bidding, Republicans in other states might be similarly bullied. Quote, I was concerned things were going to get weird, said Jeff Timmer, a former Michigan GOP executive director turned anti-Trump activist. Norm Eisen describes it as, quote, the scariest moment, unquote, of the entire election. The democracy defenders, all underscored there, so we're talking about the whole network, launched a full court press. Protect democracy's local contacts. Research the lawmakers' personal and political motives. Issue 1, I'm guessing that's another organization, ran television ads in Lansing. The Chamber's Bradley kept close tabs on the process. Womp, the former Republican congressman, called his former colleague Mike Rogers, who wrote an op-ed for the Detroit newspapers urging officials to honor the will of the voters. 3 former Michigan governors, Republicans John Engler and Rick Schneider and the Democrat Jennifer Granholm, jointly called for Michigan's electoral votes to be cast free of pressure from the White House. Engler, a former head of the Business Roundtable, made phone calls to influential donors and fellow GOP elder statesmen who could press the lawmakers privately.
I'm sorry. This sounds like they did some research that might have led to people's kids getting doxxed.
The pro-democracy forces were up against a Trumpified Michigan GOP controlled by allies of Ronna McDaniel, the Republican National Committee chair, and Betsy DeVos, the former education secretary and a member of a billionaire family of GOP donors.
Wow.
What has that got to do with anything? You're talking about having... Anyway. On a call with his team on November 18th, Bassin vented that his side's pressure was no match for what Trump could offer. Quote, of course he's going to try to offer them something, Bassin recalls thinking. Quote, head of the Space Force, ambassador to wherever, we can't compete with that by offering carrots. We need a stick, unquote. If Trump were to offer something in exchange for a personal favor, that would likely constitute bribery, Bassin reasoned. He phoned Richard Primus, a law professor at the University of Michigan, to see if Primus agreed and would make the argument publicly. Primus said he thought the meeting itself was inappropriate and got to work on an op-ed for Politico, warning that the state attorney general, a Democrat, would have no choice but to investigate. When the piece posted on November 19th, the Attorney General's communications director tweeted it. Protect Democracy soon got word that the lawmakers planned to bring lawyers to the meeting with Trump the next day.
They just happened to get word, huh?
Reyes activists scanned flight schedules and flocked to the airports on both ends of Shirkey's journey to D.C. to underscore that the lawmakers were being scrutinized.
Wow. That sounds like threatened.
Intimidation tactics? What were you talking about?
Holy shit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we talked about that because we heard about the people being threatened or whatever.
After the meeting, the pair announced they'd pressed the president to deliver COVID relief for their constituents and informed him they saw no role in the election process. They then they went for a drink at the Trump Hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. A street artist, sorry, I've been talking this entire time. A street artist projected their images onto the outside of the building along with the words, "The world is watching."
That's not ominous at all.
That left one last step, the state canvassing board made up of 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. One Republican, a Trumper employed by the DeVos family's political nonprofit, was not expected to vote for certification. The other Republican on the board was a little-known lawyer named Aaron Van Langenveld. He sent no signals about what he planned to do, leaving everyone on edge. When the meeting began, Reyes's activists flooded the live stream and filled Twitter with their hashtag ally. What? Oh, all eyes on Michigan, or MI. Okay. A board accustomed to attendance in the single digits suddenly faced an audience of thousands. In hours of testimony, the activists emphasized their message of respecting voters' wishes and affirming democracy rather than scolding the officials. I totally believe you. Van Langeveld quickly signaled that he would follow precedent. The vote was 3-0 to certify. The other Republican abstained. After that, the dominoes fell. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and the rest of the states certified their electors. Republican officials in Arizona and Georgia stood up to Trump's bullying, and the Electoral College voted on schedule on December 14th. How close we came. There was one last milestone on Podhorser's mind, January 6th. On the day Congress would meet to tally the electoral count, Trump summoned his supporters to D.C. for a rally. Much to their surprise, the thousands who answered his call were met by virtually no counter-demonstrators. To preserve safety and ensure they couldn't be blamed for any mayhem, the activist left was, quote, strenuously discouraging counter-activity, unquote. Podhorser texted me the morning of January 6th with a crossed fingers emoji. Trump addressed the crowd that afternoon, peddling the lie that lawmakers or Vice President Mike Pence could reject states' electoral votes. He told them to go to the Capitol and, quote, fight like hell, unquote. Oh, not cherry picking at all. Then he returned to the White House. Yeah, nothing else happened in the course of that speech, by the way. Thank you, Seal77. Scribe Light. Check's mom's name is Laura. Okay, let me finish this paragraph. Also, you don't mention that the whole thing started before the speech completed, and on and on and on. Then he returned to the White House as they sacked the building. As lawmakers fled for their lives and his own supporters were shot and trampled, Trump praised the rioters as, quote, very special, unquote.
What?
Trump praised the rioters as very special?
You lying motherfucker.
Okay, let's sing to Laura in this wonderful mood that we're in.
Laura, it's your birthday, and around here we do this. This one's for you. And a 1 and a 2. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Laura.
Happy birthday to you.
I am enthusiastic. Don't believe the voice.
Happy birthday, dear Laura.
But God damn this article.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Laura. I hope you had a great one.
Holy fucking shit.
It was his final attack on democracy, and once again it failed. By standing down, the democracy campaigners outfoxed their foes. Quote, we won by the skin of our teeth, honestly, and that's an important point for folks to sit with, unquote, says the Democracy Defense Coalition's Peoples. Quote, there's an impulse for some to say voters decided and democracy won, but it's a mistake to think that this election cycle was a show of strength for democracy. It shows how vulnerable democracy is, unquote.
What the bloody fuck are you talking about?
Well, this is what they're talking about, and this is what I said. This connects to all the narratives that they have been pushing about this stuff. When they said that, you know, the streets are going to be in flames and stuff if Trump wins and stuff, that wasn't a prediction. That was a promise. When they kept telling you how fragile democracy was, they weren't trying to tell you that somebody else was going to affect it. They were saying, watch this. Watch how we manipulate this entire thing and make it work in our favor.
All right.
This is how fragile it is. Look what we done. We did this.
All right, we're almost at the top of the hour. My voice is dying, and I just want to get through this. So let's just a couple more paragraphs. The members of the alliance to protect the election, that's all underscored, so we're not talking about an individual group here. We're talking about the network, have gone their separate ways. The Democracy Defense Coalition has been disbanded, though the fight back table lives on. Protect Democracy and the good government advocates have turned their attention to pressing reforms in Congress. Left-wing activists are pressuring the newly empowered Democrats to remember the voters who put them there. Yeah, $2,000 checks, anybody? While civil rights groups are on guard against further attacks on voting. Somehow you guys don't seem to see that your efforts were an attack on the process. Business leaders denounced the January 6th attack, and some say they will no longer donate to lawmakers who refuse to certify Biden's victory. Podhorzer and his allies are still holding their Zoom strategy sessions, oh thank God, gauging voters' views and developing new messages. And Trump is in Florida facing his second impeachment, deprived of the Twitter and Facebook accounts he used to push the nation to its breaking point. Yeah, all by himself, not you guys messaging hysteria. As I was reporting this article in November and December, as you were reporting this article.
You didn't report this then. You might have been writing it then.
Yeah, you might have been crafting it. I heard different claims about who should get the credit for thwarting Trump's plot. Liberals argued the role of bottom-up people power shouldn't be overlooked, particularly the contributions of people of color and local grassroots activists. Nothing about this was grassroots. Everything about this was organized, planned, pressured, strung together with blind... Financed, strung together with blind co-conspirators because you had firewalls in between people to show there was no connection publicly. Grassroots. Others stressed the heroism of GOP officials like Van Langeveld and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who stood up to Trump at considerable cost. The truth is that neither likely could have succeeded without the other. Close. It's astounding how close we came. How fragile all this really is, says Timmer, the former Michigan GOP executive director. It's like when Wile E. Coyote runs off the cliff. If you don't look down, you don't fall. Our democracy only survives if we all believe and don't look down, unquote.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the... Democracy won in the end. The will of the people prevailed.
No, it didn't. They literally just said it didn't win because they said it's fragile and they had to influence it.
But it's crazy in retrospect that this is what it took to put on an election in the United States of America.
What are you talking about to put on an election? This was literally to manipulate an election. The election was going on just fine without you people.
Thank you, Poker Pierce. What game had the biggest impact on you? Modern Warfare 2 here.
How do you mean impact?
Biggest impact on me? I suppose Knights of the Old Republic. It showed me what a role-playing game and a video game could be. Even with its, in retrospect, flaws or jankiness and everything else. It also reinvigorated. I don't even know if that's a word, but anyway.
Invigorated.
Invigorated. There you go. I'm sorry, guys. I'm I'm on fumes here. My love for Star Wars, because it really showed me a whole new avenue of how to look at that universe and open up a whole new door of things to think about and stories to tell, and even role-playing games like tabletop stuff to be able to enjoy. And so I suppose, yeah, as a single game, that and maybe Vampire Bloodlines, because it did a similar thing for me in the whole sense of role-playing and storytelling and everything else. We've only got 5 minutes. There will be more discussion of this, guys, on Monkey in the Morning, for sure. I'm suspecting that Satsu will be doing something on this as well. I would like to at least end the last 5 minutes of the show, as this will be Monkey's last show on which I am hosting. To make that clear, it's not his last show. But I'm going to take the floor, and I'm sorry. I know everybody wants to talk about the article, and we will. Don't worry. No, I'm not going to extend the stream, Keeve. I'm just about done. I've read for 2 hours now straight, and I'm literally about done. And plus, my body thinks I have to get up at 4 a.m. Thank you, Resolute Germ. Good job. Thank you, Resolute Germ, very much. I know we'll do all this tomorrow as well, but since this is to be immortalized on my channel at least, Monkey, you are probably one of the least expected friends I could have thought to make when I started this whole thing. When I first encountered you, whether it was a Bear stream or a Based Mama stream, whatever it was, you're right. Everybody quieted down because out of that entire gaggle of people talking over each other and everything else, you and I found a connection, just rhetorically, just talking about stuff that quieted everybody else down. Yep. And it was really from that moment that I understood that there was some ephemeral chemistry, whatever it was, between you and I, even though we didn't know each other, knew nothing about each other, really. And when, let's see, thank you, Poker Pierce. Peace out, you quitter. We love you. Thank you, Poker. And it was your reflexive gesture of apology for not crediting me in a video you did when we both did the same thing on the same subject unknowingly. That really showed me immediately your integrity. It's not often that somebody is sort of that honest or is that sensitive to the other people around them, even complete strangers. And so when one day you asked, I need some help live streaming, I jumped at the chance to help. And I was glad to have done so. And everything that's happened since then, our friendship, this show, all the friends I've made as a result of this show, all the other Lords of the Night, the whole gaggle, Satsu, SDA, P-Dog, all the shows that have grown up out of this show, that have been inspired by this show, everything wouldn't have started if you just hadn't been, from the get-go, an exemplary person that I had the fortune to come across in this completely random hobby that I took up 4 years ago now. Thank you, Sora Luna, for the heart. Appreciate it. So even though I know this isn't farewell forever, goodbye, we're never going to see you again or anything, it isn't the end of an era. It is the cessation, even peaceably, amicably, of a partnership that's been going on for 4 years straight, almost every night for 4 years, which is insane to me when I think about it. I thought doing 10 years of a single role-playing game where I showed up every Saturday was something nuts, but this is something else. As a last statement, I am so happy to have met you. I'm glad you're my friend. I hope whatever you decide to do next is at least as successful as this one thing that has been as successful as it has been for the last 4 years. I am so grateful to have met you and Lady Monkey and all the Grand Monkeys. I just want to say thank you for all your time and your effort, your joy, your insight, your sense of humor, and whatever comes next, I hope it all goes well.
Ditto.
That is very kind. Green Death just said, anyone else tearing up? Maybe a little bit. I'm not crying, you're crying. I appreciate all that. And I have stuff planned to say tomorrow, and I'm going to save it for then.
Mhm.
But I really appreciate everything you just said.
I hope you did, because I didn't script any of that. I'm actually kind of impressed with myself right now.
No, I really do appreciate that.
Everyone, I know this is awkward way to end the show, especially given the honest fury
Right.
that the bulk of the show is. I know this is suddenly like a roller coaster, but I hadn't planned for the show to go this way, and I couldn't end without saying what I meant to say. So it started off with a plan of the little medley of old memories, and ended off with this. Everyone, I am going to call it here. I'm sorry. I'm my voice is running on fumes, and my body's already telling me I need to go to sleep. But with that, guys, do you have anything going on after the show that people should be aware of?
Monkey, are you streaming after this?
I might be. Why were you going to game?
That's why I was asking you, because I'm like, are you gaming?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to get up and try to stretch. That fall was bad today, so we'll see how I feel after that. But if you want to stream, dude, go stream.
All right, then I'll be streaming after this, guys.
And everyone, if you would like to express your appreciation, first and foremost, go subscribe to Monkey's channel. Go subscribe to his Twitch channel, or at least log in and say hello the next time he does a stream. Follow us on Twitter. Please go subscribe to Fam 2 Cents, because Satsu is only a few subscribers away from getting to that magic 1,000 number.
Get him there, guys.
Yeah, which will help out immensely for both his ambitions and his ability to eat. Yeah, and make start maybe making some ad money on his cooking channels. And also, the more subscribers he gets, the closer he might get to somebody willing to sponsor him for that stuff, which would be great. Thank you, Lady Gopher, so much for the number one. But with all that, guys, I apologize for the long-windedness, but I have worn that in the past, several hundred episodes before. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for all these years. Hope to see you for longer. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though our chat is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everyone who donated, I don't have the words. From 99 cents to $200, I never take it lightly that you guys are so generous, and I appreciate all of it. Thank you so much. I will be, as usual, paying it forward shortly when such generosity comes my way. Satsu, Monkey, thank you for joining me, as always.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Everyone, I'm making myself cry, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
And as usual, taking out my copy of Screw the Roses, Send You the Thorns, the romance and sexual sorcery of sadomasochism.
Motherfucking masochism.
Masochism. Secret word is force.
Dog Cat Fox's chapter.
Shut up.